Hey everyone, it's Nurse Dani from Intermountain Moms, and today I have the privilege of being with Dr. Strasser here from Northern Utah Pediatrics in Layton, Utah. And tell us a little bit about your background. How long have you been a pediatrician?
I've been practicing here at Intermountain since 2006, so about 11 years.
A wealth of knowledge. I'm excited that we get to gain some of that today from you.
Thank you.
So, the topic that I wanted to discuss with you today is autism. I get quite a few questions on our Facebook page about it. Parents are writing in, they're concerned about certain things that their child is doing, behaviors that they're exhibiting. As a pediatrician, what sorts of behaviors and things can a parent look for in their child, and when should they talk with the doctor about it?
That's a really good question. I think to start that discussion, I would just say, being aware of signs and symptoms is really important, but it's important for each individual child's specific situation to make sure that you're reviewing your concerns with your pediatrician because they know you the best.
Right.
They've watched your child develop and they're also monitoring for these signs and symptoms. But in general, what we find is that these children have a little bit of a delay in social development. So oftentimes they're less affectionate. Sometimes they're less interactive with other adults or actually other children. Sometimes they can have repetitive behaviors. Sometimes they can have really intense, interest in a particular thing that other children may not be interested in that are the same age. So for example, they might line their cars up in a very specific way in specific order. They may spin wheels, and moving parts are very interesting to them, whereas another child may lose interest with that in a very brief amount of time. This child may do it for minutes to hours. So very repetitive types of behaviors. We also see sometimes that they have difficulty interacting with other children. So their play and interactive play sometimes seems a little bit different or delayed. They often don't know how to reach out and ask for help. They tend to be very isolated and a little bit less engaged when they're in a social situation. We also find that children with autism sometimes have associated disorders in language and speech or hearing development, and those are important things to rule out when we're looking at a child for a possible autism diagnosis. For example, if a child has hearing loss, they may look like they are not interacting socially, but that's just because they can't hear what's going on, not that there's actually a developmental problem. So again, those are important things that you want to rule out as you're kind of considering if my child's development is appropriate or if it may look a little bit delayed compared to another child.
So if a mother came into your office with concerns about her child, you saw some red flags, what happens next? How do you diagnose it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So in our office, we're proactively screening for autism. That's based on a national recommendation through the American Academy of Pediatrics that recommends that we use a tool called the MChat. The MChat is a screening of about 20 questions that you'll get at your pediatrician's office to complete at both the 18-month and the 24-month well child check. And so your pediatrician's office should have you fill out that questionnaire or ask you those questions. They'll score it and then let the moms know if they passed or if they failed. There are some follow-up questionnaires if they failed, and then your pediatrician can go through those with you as well. If the child still fails based on the follow-up questions, that's sort of our initial screening tool, as well as parents' observations, and then we can go on and make some additional referrals. So when we do that, primarily who we get involved are pediatric psychiatrists and psychologists, and people who can do observations of children as well as complete a formal test called an ADOS, or ADOS is what that test is called. ADOS testing is considered an official diagnostic tool that's recognized pretty much nationally as sort of the gold standard for autism diagnosis. And generally speaking, the school districts require that test to be completed for children to qualify for services through the school district and other areas through their insurance company for services as well.